Hello and welcome to another Hollie's Hot Takes, where tonight I'm joined by Wes again, my lovely co-host who took the reins last week. Wes, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, it's nice to have you back because clearly you were too busy for your fans last week. And then you dropped me out the week before. So, I'm not saying that this is long overdue, Holly, but someone somewhere needs to have a word, I think. Someone somewhere.
Yeah.
Last week was great. It was obviously great to have my dad on. He's been wanting to jump on a podcast of some sort for a long time. And it was nice to get him on. And he hasn't stopped talking about it either, which is quite nice. And yeah, big shout out to Harry Scarfy, if you're watching or listening. Shout out to you, mate, because you were brilliant last week. But yeah, and then speaking to Harry, actually, it was like I think he appeared on like every show. I did feel a bit sorry for him in that sense, but no, all good. Ready to dive into another podcast, talking all things Tottenham.
100%. Like I say, Wes, you are the OGs. And I did promote you to obviously star man last week. And I'm sure in the weeks and months to come, that will always be the case regardless. But it's great to have you on. Obviously, we've got a lot to dissect, like Chris is saying. Have I recovered from Monday night? I don't think I have. But Wes, let's dive straight into it because obviously it is a massive talking point. We didn't have Hollie's Hotspurs obviously Monday, so we can dissect it right now. So what was your kind of take on the game itself?
Yeah, so, well, as you know, Holly, I was raging and absolutely fuming because I had to sell my ticket for the game. I was under the impression, obviously, last week and told everybody on the podcast that I would be going. And for those that don't know, I run a football session on a Monday night. I had somebody down to cover me, and then they told me really late that they couldn't make it. So that shattered dreams like you wouldn't believe, because people that know me know Chelsea and Arsenal are the games that I do not want to miss at all. I don't mind missing the odd game here and there, but not those two, especially at home. So that made it even worse. So I sort of missed the first 15 minutes just from getting back. So I actually missed Kulu's goal, and I think I caught the replay of the Son goal that then got ruled out offside. Which would have made it 2-0, but my girlfriend had it on, and literally I've just walked in the door and she just shouted "Go!" and I'm like, right, here we go, let's get upstairs and everything else. So yeah, that was fun. But yeah, I think the game itself, obviously going off what I saw, I think the general consensus for me was that after your doggies tackle on Sterling, we completely lost our heads, in all honesty, and that's the way I see it. It really woke Chelsea up, and they went, "Oh, okay, they want to play like this, huh? Okay." So then Chelsea just grew into the game, and then there was a good spell where we just couldn't handle them, to be honest. And I thought our in-game management after the Udogie tackle was probably the poorest that I've seen in a long, long time. We were absolutely all over the place. All it needed was for Basuma just to get on the ball and just calm everything down, like he has done for us in a lot of occasions earlier on in the season. But it just didn't happen. It genuinely did not happen. And all of a sudden, and then it was just. Then it was like when it rains, it doesn't pour. It's like an absolute, flood, if you like, that's happened after that. So it was a case of if anything could have gone wrong, it definitely sort of did at that point, I think.
And I think the thing is, lots of people are talking about the high line that Ange kind of put into practice in that kind of, I think it was the last 20 minutes. So to be honest, I was so lost for time just because for about 20 minutes I didn't have a clue what was going on with VAR. But in terms of that, do you think it was the right call to have such a high line? Do you think it was still good to go for it regardless? What was your kind of consensus? Because I know you've mentioned about game management, etc. Is that something you probably was against, or are you for let's just go for it?
Do you know what? The high line absolutely baffled me. And to this day, I can't get my head around it. Like, I'm all for teams having a go, and I'm all for this Tottenham team having a go. We've been starved of a team having a go for 4 or 5 years. And I've had this conversation with my dad a lot, and it's that and I understand every coach, and I'm obviously one myself, we have our core principles, our values, our non-negotiables, our philosophy, our playing style, and I get that, right, with Ange, 100%. But you have to take into account the state of the game. Why on earth are we trying to give somebody as quick as Raheem Sterling half a pitch? Regardless of his quality, you're going to give a player with speed half a pitch to work in. It's criminal, absolutely criminal. Jackson's quick as well. Do you know what I mean? And then there was a time when Cucurella just decided, you know what, sod it, I'll go and just break the line, and he got through. And then obviously we had the save from Vicario, but I just couldn't get my head around it. I really couldn't. Like, the contrast from us going down to 9 men and Liverpool going down to 9 men was massive. I know that the Liverpool circumstances were different because they lost attacking players. We lost defensive players. But what Liverpool did was they went, come and break us down. The onus was on Tottenham in that Liverpool game to break Liverpool down. The onus was on Chelsea to break us down. And I think in the end, we made it easy and we just got picked off because we were really, in my eyes, really, really naive. Now, people can hammer me for it because it's like, oh, well, we had a go. Yeah, but we've been, effectively, the scoreline says we've been battered at home by that lot. By that lot as well. Like, the high line baffled my brain. Like, just defend the width of your 18-yard box and then try and nick one potentially on a set piece.
Yeah, it was a bit bizarre in that kind of sense because, like you say, you want them to try and attack us in a sense of break us down, like you said. But it just seemed like we were, like you said, opening the floodgates. I think there was a point though. At some point, I think Højbjerg had a running race. I can't remember who it was, but he actually won. I mean, how did you kind of feel? I don't know how. I definitely felt very strange seeing Dyer come on the pitch. But how did you feel in the kind of substitutions that Ange made? Because obviously Brennan Johnson missed out again, having to come off to make that tactical change, going down to that many men. So what did you kind of make on the appearance of Dyer and Højbjerg?
The Dyer one, it was like, okay, yeah, we've had a centre half sent off, so yeah, probably have to bring him in. I don't think he really did a lot wrong. Obviously, the high line, well, that's down to the manager, and he's carrying out managerial instruction. But yeah, I don't think Dyer did too much wrong, I have to say, and it almost looked like a bit of a player reborn. Dare I say it? Because
so don't go that far.
Yeah, he was actually all right. I think obviously we know Dyer's not the most mobile, and that is potentially a reason why he hasn't had many minutes under Ange, because the way we play, you have to have centre backs that are mobile. I think the Van der Ven injury, I don't know if you were going to mention it anyway, but I think the Van der Ven one is more of a killer for us than Romero, because not only is Mickey absolutely rapid, but he's also left-footed, and we haven't got many lefties in the club. But listen, it's a good opportunity now for Dyer, potentially Ash Phillips, who got pulled from the 21s game last night against Cambridge, to come in. He's a player that probably myself and a lot of Football Manager fans out there and players really like, because he does come up clutch for you if you sign him. That was on the old one anyway. I don't know about the new one just yet. I'm working my way through it. So yeah, it's an opportunity, I think, for him to step up. I think Højbjerg did a solid one. I think his was more. I think he sacrificed himself for the good of the team. But it was strange seeing Eric Dyer and Emerson Royal at centre half. Let's be honest. I think somebody even messaged me going like, which pairing is worse, Dyer and Emerson, or Maguire and Lindelof?
Oh my days.
So, you know, that's the level that we're at. It's like, it feels like a whole new level of banter era was upon us at that point. But Emerson was, dare I say it, was he in there for his pace, or was it just another defender that we had on the bench to try and bring on? But yeah, like I say, it's now an opportunity for Dyer to try and make a bit of a claim for himself. And like I say, somebody like an Ash Phillips and essentially an Alfie Dorrington to, you know, come in and show us what you got, lads.
I think that's true. And like you said, I think obviously with the loss of Mickey van der Ven, although there is a picture circling at the moment that he was in training today, not potentially training, but there's a little handshake with him and Sonny, and I think a lot of us are getting a bit carried away. But like you said, I think that will be a massive blow to us. I think there's talks of us obviously trying to get someone in. I think we were trying to get someone in January anyway, but the fact that we've obviously potentially lost Mickey van der Ven for a very long time. I mean, are you worried at all by that? I mean, it's a bit of a silly question, but what can we do? I guess.
I mean, worried, yes, because he's been brilliant. Yeah, but it is what it is, and you know we have to live with it. I think your doggy going off as well. I mean, I don't know why he went in for the tackle on Sterling in the first place. He doesn't need to. Sterling's not actually going anywhere at that point. So it's a really stupid one. That means Davis, if he's fit, comes in at left back. If not, Emerson Royale's playing left back, which I mean he just about plays right back, bless him. But to have him at left back is going to be interesting.
But to be fair, for pace, I'd have him over Davies, bless him. I think Davies would get. I don't know. I think I actually prefer Emerson on that side.
It's a strange. I think it could even be Dyer and Davis at centre half, and then Emerson at left back. But then it just depends on Davis's fitness. I think whether he plays or not. I would assume that if he's fit, he comes into the team somewhere along the line. But yeah, it's the Mickey one is a big blow. Madders is a slight blow, but I don't think that one's going to be as serious. Looking at it, I think it was just a case of right, let's just hook him before it gets any worse. But listen, we saw a bit of Bentancur, so who knows? I think Bentancur we could have a midfield of Basuma, Sarr and Bentancur against Wolves. Who knows? Because Bentancur has got a decent eye for a pass as well. He's perhaps just not as flair, if you like, as he's not that sort of flair player like Maddison is, but he work hard. So it's probably going to be a bit more of a workman-like midfield, I would anticipate, against Wolves on Saturday lunchtime. So yeah, we're really stretched. So it's just a case of whoever's fit and available. If you whack a shirt on and you crack on.
I definitely think I've cursed it. I mean, my new favourite player, Mickey van der Ven, aka Daddy Longlegs, gets injured. Maddison gets injured, and then we lose the game 4-1. I think I'm just going to ban myself for a very long time, to say the least. I mean, Ravi has put a question in and said, do you both feel the mentality is stronger now? I mean, the thing is, Wes, if we're going to talk about positives, I know it was a bit of a battering, but the only thing I can say that was a real positive was the fact that they didn't stop. Those 9 players on that pitch carried on till the very end. I mean, does that give you a bit of hope that we are going to continue pushing and fighting? Because like Ange said, there's going to be some peaks and troughs this season. We're just lucky that obviously it took this long to get that trough, and it had to be against them lot, didn't it?
Yeah, I think someone somewhere, a script writer, has made an absolute fortune, because there was definitely a script written. But yeah, I think the big positive to come out of it is the fact that the players didn't give up, and they gave everything. They left everything out there, and I think the fans in the stadium, obviously you were there. I think everybody in the ground fed off of it, and you could really hear it on TV. And I think this is probably the first time where we've been beat to a rival. Not even just been beat, but been beaten to a rival, and as a fan base, we're still united, and we're still there's so much positive things to come out of the game from a fan point of view. So I think that in itself is huge. And how many times have we seen a Tottenham team just after especially that second goal, really, when that was sort of the killer, and even that third one, but we just go well and just roll over. We've seen it so many times. So yeah, it was nice to see that the lads were actually still going. I know Andres is we don't stop kind of mentality, philosophy, like one of his non-negotiables is that within what he does, and it's evident, I think, now across the board. I think if anybody was a bit unsure of it at the time, I think Monday night's the evidence that look, we're gonna keep going right until the very end.
And I think that I see as well, I know there's lots of talk about people saying, oh, are we going to boo Poch? Are we going to do this or that or the other? And again, it symbolises how united we are as a fan base, that we're not fussed about the past anymore. We're fully in this moment right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Obviously, I didn't hear if Poch did get booed or if he got cheered.
No, I don't think that really anything. I think we were just concentrating on Tottenham. I don't think anybody. I didn't really hear any boos, to be fair.
That's all right then. That's all right, because I think I mentioned it last week. Like, people have got short memories. Like, we do have to remember the magnificent job that he did for the football club. Yes, he's joined that lot, and it hurts, and it will hurt. But look, I think that the way he spoke about us in the days leading up to the game was a big one for a lot of fans, myself included. And actually, I'm going, well, you know, he does still care. You can see he does care about Tottenham. I think he always will. You know, and I think the point that he made of, look, we didn't choose to leave, we were kind of sacked or asked to leave. I think that says a lot in itself. Like, you know, Poch would, obviously you don't know, but you'd like to think that if he wasn't sacked, he could probably still be in charge now. Do you know what I mean? So, but no, I think it's good that what Ange has done has just brought everybody together. I think, you know, that the way that we play a lot of the time is really encouraging. It's football that as a fan you want to see, and like, I think now fans are just like, when's the next game? When is the next game? Oh, I've got to wait ages for Ange ball. I can't be doing this kind of thing. And I think, yeah, it's things are moving in a good direction for us as a team, but I think as the whole, as the club, as well, he's just brought everybody together, which I don't think many people were anticipating he would do so quickly.
No, definitely. And I like you say, it's the fact that it just wasn't toxic on Monday night. The fact that, regardless of the fact that we were at one point obviously 3-1 down, 4-1, that everybody kept singing Tottenham songs. It wasn't like half people walking out, everybody was staying till the end. So it is nice to see that turnaround. But obviously this show tonight, Wes, is obviously a fan show too. If anybody's watching the stream and they are a channel member, don't hesitate to obviously come in, click the link that I've shared around, and you can jump on in. But let's move on while we wait for people to come in if they're going to join us. And I want to talk about Big Vic, because Vicario, my word, he is something else, isn't he? The amount of saves that he managed to pull off. I mean, I don't want to say it could have been more, but it generally could have been.
It could have, it really could have been. I mean, where was he when, you know, COVID-19 was going around? Because I think he could have saved us all from that as well. Yeah, what a boy, what a performance! Just unbelievable. I think, again, if anybody had any doubts about him as a goalkeeper, now they're squashed 100%. I think, yeah, that performance was just unbelievable. Like, how Sky didn't give him man of the match, I've got no idea, because it went to Jackson. But honestly, Vicario was just, and I think what I like about him is, not only in that game, obviously he pretty much was a Manuel Neuer, just, you know, sweeper keeper, everything like that, which, you know, I think that's been a bit of a dying art of a goalkeeper over the last sort of 5 years or so. You know, you don't particularly see too many teams playing with that real sweeper keeper. But he just rebirthed it basically, and yeah, he was brilliant. And what I also like is he makes good saves at crucial times in matches. And I think he's done that a lot so far this year. And I look and I go, if there was potentially another goalkeeper in there, would that particular shot be saved? Answer, probably not, half the time. I think it was a bit unfortunate with the penalty. Obviously got a hand on it and he just tipped it onto the inside of the post. I do think there was one of Jackson's goals though that was pretty much straight at him, and I'm looking at him going, Vic, you probably could have saved that, mate. Like, I understand you're a bit knackered because you're covering for someone, like, but you know, the ball's literally like straight at you. Like, come on. But no, honestly, what a signing he's proven to be, and yeah, I'm glad that he's our goalkeeper now, because there was a few question marks, like from myself, like, you know, especially after that Brentford game. I didn't think he was the most convincing in that game, but I think since then he's just been absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I'll give him his flowers.
No, he was, honestly, I think, because obviously I haven't seen him in the flesh yet, regardless of where I sat, he's just a massive presence. I think there was times where he came out and I was like, there is no way he's getting to that, and bang, he cleared it. But he's also timed it really well as well. And I think, like you said, I think it's the confidence that he has in that goal, especially with, obviously, I know Mickey van der Ven went off, but even with the players that came on, he felt confident with them in front. And I never thought I'd ever say that with Dyer in front of him, but he's just an exceptional talent. Like you say, you just hope that he can obviously carry on with that throughout. But Wes, I want to see if I know it's pretty hard to dissect when we lost 4-1 and dropped points, but is there another standout performer? Because we've spoken about how that as a collective, everybody battled to the end. Is there someone that you would say, apart from obviously Vicario and the players we've mentioned already, is there someone that stands out for you that potentially may have gone under the radar?
I'd say Porro. I thought he was pretty decent, to be fair. Yeah, I thought he did. I thought he did all right. Obviously, wicked ball in for the Dyer goal that got disallowed, which on another angle, by the way, looks like it's come off a Chelsea player. I'm not going to go into VAR because we could be here all night with that. But yeah, no, I think Porro's starting to become, I think, the player that the majority of us were hoping. And what I like he's really, really passionate as well, and he loves playing for Spurs. Like, you can just see it oozes through him as well, which is always nice. From a fan point of view, you want your players to actually sort of care, and I know to some of them it is literally a job. But yeah, no, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Pedro Porro. I think his defending has got a lot better as well. Like, I don't see too many people really going past him. He doesn't dive in as much. He's not rash in any tackles. I know he was potentially at fault for the Sterling goal that got ruled out for the handball, but I think the majority of his performance was pretty solid. Obviously, I know we mentioned Dyer and Højbjerg that put in a real shift as well. But yeah, if there was anybody else, I think apart from Vicario, I would probably say Mr. Porro.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I think there's a couple of games where I think I've mentioned as well that he's probably my player that's gone under the radar a little bit because of exactly what he does. It kind of goes amiss sometimes. But yeah, I think you're right. And in terms of, obviously, I don't want to keep bringing Dyer up because he wound me up last season, but to think that he played to that level against Chelsea for his first appearance this season is a bit insane, isn't it?
Yeah, just a bit really, because you think, well, that's his first real involvement, this season, and I think there's always been this thing with Dyer about being a leader, but I think it's always like you'll see a game and you'll go, yeah, Eric Dyer, brilliant leader, and then you'll see him the following week and you go, oh my word, what is going on here? So he's really like sort of hot and cold, but yeah, I think credit to him. Obviously, come in. From what I've heard and seen online, and he's not really kicked up that much of a fuss, which is important, I think, for the dressing room, the dynamic there. So yeah, no, to see him come in and produce that level of performance, I think was brilliant. From him, and actually credit where it's due, because we've all criticised him because he hasn't been good enough for a long period of time. But who knows now? Likely to get a run in the team, he can start to show everybody, what he is actually capable of. I mean, I think we're all anticipating that there's going to be an error or two in there in a game soon. And actually, if you watch Premier League years on Sky, and if there's any Spurs games that are on it with him in the team, it's a really, really interesting watch, because he's looking around at everybody else, but then when you deep it and you go, actually, Dyer's like, I kind of came to this realization the other day, like Eric Dyer was at fault for a lot of goals that we concede when he's in the team. And it's really, really, it's a bit concerning now that he's having to sort of come in and be that main guy. But no, credit where it's due. Monday night he was brilliant, and kind of did his best to sort of hold the fort at the back.
Definitely. And I think that's the thing. I think it's kind of like what I said about Højbjerg near the start of the season when we had to call upon him. He's like, when you ask for him to do a job, he'll do it. And I feel like that's kind of what Dyer's best attribute is. If he's got a job that he needs to do, rather than start him, bring him on, feel like he's got to prove something. I think that's probably the best way to describe Dyer's performances. But Evo's put a question in and saying, what did you think about Son's performance? I mean, there was that chance right at the very end where I thought it was destined to go in right before Chelsea then went and scored down the other end. But what did you make of Son's overall performance?
A little bit difficult one to judge. That's my mum that's asked the question as well, by the way. She was at the game.
I know now.
She was at the game. Son, a little bit difficult, I think, to really judge because of the circumstances. But yeah, look, I think that chance at the end, it's a killer, because I'd like to think that majority of the time, Sonny bags that. He's probably knackered, bless him. But yeah, I think majority of the time he buries it. But I think what made it even worse was that literally off the back of it, Chelsea then went and got the fourth. But yeah, it was a difficult one, I think, for us really to judge any of the attacking players. Although saying that, when I spoke to my dad about it, he was really complimentary of Kulusevski, and saying like the amount of ground and the amount of work he gets through in 90 minutes, he can now sort of understand why Ange doesn't take him off.
Yeah.
Which I thought was quite interesting. Because I'm probably one of those where I'm like, he's not really having an impact on the game. He's not really doing anything, which happens as a winger. I should know more than any. I used to play out there, but I think with that sometimes like just maybe take him off. But I think now you've got that little bit extra. I wouldn't say insight, but yeah, it's just interesting to hear obviously people's different views and things like that on players when they watch them live. But yeah, Son, difficult one because it felt like he was just getting into the game, and then all of a sudden the game's effectively gone away from him. Yeah, it's gone away from him. But listen, I think I think not only him, but all of the lads really just tried their best in the situation that they found themselves in.
And that's the thing. I think beforehand, obviously, in say the Conte era, or even prior to that, and Jose, I don't think we would have got that level of effort, so to speak, to carry on that way. But I also think it's just the way we're playing. They want to play that kind of football. They want to go and attack the ball, which I think is really nice and pleasant as a Spurs fan, which is why I think no fan was really, I mean, we were all annoyed because it was Chelsea, but we weren't annoyed at the effort levels they were trying to give. I mean, before we could kind of move on to the next game, I also want to talk about, I'm not going to talk about VAR because I can't be asked, but I want to talk about Brennan Johnson, because obviously he's had little snippets of games here and there, and almost like the attackers and Son, so to speak, that they were just getting into the game and Brennan had to come off. So for you, kind of mixing it in with the Wolves game coming up, how do you think he's going to progress at Tottenham? Because I think there's glimmers of him being amazing. He just hasn't had the game time, so to speak, yet.
Yeah, I have felt a bit sorry for Brennan Johnson or Jono, because just when you feel like he could do something, or he gets an opportunity, something happens and it just kills him. Basically, I think I said last week that I was hoping that he would start. Mm-hmm. So obviously when I did come in and see that he was starting, I was like, oh, brilliant. Like, yeah, it's nice. Obviously unfortunate circumstances meant he had to get hooked. But I think obviously now with Richarlison going in for some surgery, I would anticipate now that we get to see a lot more of Brennan Johnson, and I think it's going to be really, really good. I know a few Forest fans, and spoke to a couple of them when we signed him, and they said, like, look, you've got a really good player. He's going to suit you really well, can play anywhere sort of across that front line. And yeah, they were sort of singing his praises. So it'll be nice to see him get a bit of a run in the team now, and he can show what he's about and prove, that it was a good choice from, the recruitment department to scout him in the first place, to then somebody putting, Ange giving it the green light to go and sign him, and then whether it's Levy or whoever, probably Levy, but yeah, for Levy to go and actually sign him and get him through the door. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do, because like I say, there's been snippets, like you said, there's been snippets of a player in there. We've just yet to see it a bit more, or a bit more of it.
Definitely. And hopefully, obviously, with the next game against Wolves coming up, I mean, hopefully we will get to see, like you said, now that Richarlison is obviously not going to be playing for the near future or the far future, hopefully not. But with that in mind, what is your kind of thoughts and feelings going into this lunchtime game against Wolves at the weekend?
So let's just get through it without any more injuries or suspensions. I think the obvious killer to come out of Monday night was the fact that Romero is going to be suspended for the City away. That's a big blow, and to potentially have no Van de Ven either, double whammy. Listen, Wolves have really turned things around. I had them tipped at the start of the season really to struggle given who they let go and what they brought in. Obviously, losing the likes of Ruben Neves, João Moutinho, and players like that, and not really replacing them, and for me was a big concern for Wolves. I know a couple of Wolves fans as well. I know one that is probably one of the most diehard fans I've ever met, to be honest. Like, you name it, he's been there, which is quite handy when it comes to away days, I have to say. So, yeah, I think this Wolves game now and the way that they're going, I think the way they were going anyway would have made it tricky. Given the circumstances now, it's even trickier because they've starting to pick up some form. My worry from a Wolves perspective is goals, but they seem to have found a little bit of a way to try and nick a result here and there. I think I watched the Monday Night Football that Gary O'Neill was on, and I thought he came across really well. And yeah, it's kind of given me a little bit of a soft spot for him, I have to say, because of the way he's come across. And he's one of those people now that if I hear or see that he's on and he's talking, I'm going to listen to him. His insights are quite fascinating. I think so. Yeah, I think Wolves is going to be a tricky one. I think we have struggled there away from home over the last few years as well. Molineux is not the greatest ground. Absolutely horrendous away end as well. Probably one of the worst in the league, which they're all going to buzz off as well. They absolutely live for it. But yeah, no, it's going to be a tricky assignment for us. So we definitely have got to be on our game.
Yeah, the thing is, like you said, with obviously the red cards, the suspension, the injuries, I think is the massive blow for us. But could we not trying to like downgrade Wolves at all? Because every game in the Premier League is a difficult game. But do you think this could be the time that Ange tries things? Because, like you said, we've got these games coming up, like the City game, that's going to be a very, very difficult one. So is this the one where he trials different things, do you think?
I don't think Ange is one for that, I have to say.
Especially not after the Fulham game, I guess.
I think it's very much a case of like, right, what situation? We're in this situation now, few injuries, few suspensions. What have we got left to play with? And let's get the best out of who we've got available to us. And I think that's the way Ange is going to go about it. He's going to be confident. Listen, I don't think it's going to be a case of us changing the way that we play because of who's out. Ange is going to play exactly the same way. So you're going to see this box with the two centre halves, the two fullbacks inverted in the pitch coming into midfield. You're going to see potentially, if Maddison is fit, him having the free roam to kind of get on the ball and make things happen. You're going to see the wingers staying wide and as high as possible to try and stretch the opposition. So that side of it, like the way that we're going to play and everything else isn't going to change. If it was going to change, it would have changed on Monday, and it definitely didn't. So I can't see it changing on Saturday and any future games we've got coming up, because Andrew's got his principles and he's definitely going to stick to them. I don't think he's a man that's going to divert from anything like that. So yeah, like I say, I can't see too much. Obviously, the personnel is going to change, but in terms of the way that we're going to play, it's going to be exactly the same.
I was going to say, if he's stubborn with 9 men, my word, he's going to be fine with 11 against Wolves. But no, it is going to be very interesting. I think Chelsea was not an eye-opener, but it was almost like, okay, this is the trough. Now let's try and get back to where we were. But I think all of us Spurs fans were enjoying the ride while it was continuing. I just hope that regardless of these injuries, these setbacks, that the team are so united that it'll be fine for us, won't it?
Yeah, no, and I think what I like as well is that from a lot of fans, like usually after a defeat, it was very much doom and gloom and like, oh, here we go. Whereas not seen any of it, to be honest, which means that as fans, we've probably taken the defeat really well, despite the fact that it was against that lot, and we hate them, none more so than me, despise them with a passion. Which is why I was gutted and fuming and raging that I couldn't make Monday night. So yeah, I think we've taken the defeat really well, and I think it is that acceptance of, okay, we're going to get beat, but listen, we've had a right good go at it, and we didn't just go, come on then, like however many do you want, and we'll give it to you. I think, there was spells in the game on Monday where Chelsea struggled really to break us down. It was only then when I think it was Poch that was speaking to Conor Gallagher at one point, and maybe another player, I can't remember who it was, but it was what Poch was actually saying to them was move the ball, because if you move the ball, then the spaces are going to appear and then we'll penetrate through. And I think that ultimately is what happened. And I think it was a case of the wide players, especially Raheem Sterling, timing his run to get in behind, and a little bit more patience from Chelsea. And I think that's when they ended up getting in behind and then making the most of the opportunities that they had at that point.
And I think the thing is, without obviously sounding too sour, the fact that we lost, I think the fact that it took them so long to realise that, I would be very worried as a Chelsea fan, regardless of the fact that obviously it was 4-1. I think just the way they played and the fact it took them so long to figure that out, like without taking my Spurs hat off, not having a neutral one on. Would you say that was maybe the case?
Yeah, I think as a Chelsea fan, you would be a little bit concerned. Yes, obviously you're buzzing, you've beaten Spurs and everything else, but that slight worry there is, well, actually, we did struggle to break down a team that were wounded, especially defensively. And I think that's why I mentioned earlier the difference between us going down to 9 men and Liverpool, because Liverpool, yes, they were wounded, but they still had that defensive solidity there, whereas our backline had been decimated at this point. Like, Porro was the only survivor from the starting backline. So that kind of says it all. But yeah, it was Chelsea were, yes, you could, it feels weird saying it, but Chelsea are actually poor. Yet they've come away with a 4-1 win, but it was because it got to the stage for us where it was damage limitation, and we got picked off. It was very rare that Chelsea really pierced through us and actually, done. They haven't really worked as that well. So yeah, I think as a Chelsea, I know the difference between us and Chelsea is that, because I think we're still at similar points in terms of new manager, new project, everything else. The difference with Chelsea is they've spent an absolute fortune on their project, whereas we've spent a fiver in comparison to what Chelsea have spent. So yeah, I think that's why Chelsea get scrutinised a lot more, because of the outlay that they've had on the team. But to get a team to spend that amount of money and get a team like that that still don't have the capability to know what to do at the right time. And again, it comes down to game management. Like, they didn't manage the game well when we went down to 9 men for a long period of time. That's a worry and concern, and that would be my worry and concern as a Chelsea player. So yeah, I mean, we did have 2 good chances with 9 men, but it got to that stage where it was like, right, we're going to go for it. We know we're going to get exposed at the back, but sod it, who cares? That was kind of what it felt like. So yeah, no, like I say, from a Chelsea perspective, it does feel like there is still some work that needs to be done.
100%. And the thing is, when we go back to their gaff, we'll be able to roll them over instead, because we will hopefully by then be able to keep our cool, and the likes of Adoji and Romero will not be kebabbing them, and hopefully we'll be all right. But it's been a good chat tonight, Wes. I don't think people, I must smell or something, because last week Carl made an appearance on the show, and no one's joined us tonight. So I think you should take the reins from now on, to be fair. But no, it's been great, Wes, and thanks again for joining. Like I say, hopefully we can get those points against Wolves, because that would be put us into great stead, especially with all the injuries, etc. It'll give us a bit more confidence. But Wes, it's my favourite time of the night. It's your time to tell everyone where they can find you. So fire away, my friend.
All right, here we go. Cracking show as always, Hollie. Thank you for having me on co-hosting duties, or the main man, the SAR man, not the star man, the SAR man, as I was last week. Yeah, I don't know what's happened tonight, but yeah, I'm happy to do either or. But yeah, anyway.
I was going to say, maybe we'll get Steve-O on again next week.
Oh, Christ. Listen, he had to sit next to me last week because he was like doing it on my own laptop. I was like, no, I'm not going through that process. Bless him. But no, love you, Dad. Don't worry. It's all good. Yeah. Anyway, Twitter is @Wezo10, unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account. Just because Moussa Dembele for me is the greatest of all time, and nobody can tell me any different. Even I watched the podcast with Danny Rose today, and even he said he's one of the best that he's played with, and gets in his five-a-side team. So there you go. And then Instagram is @Wezo32. So usually at Spurs games.
Apart from Monday.
Yeah, still so. But I'm usually at a Spurs game. Yeah, obviously go and watch the team. Got to have some kind of release, I guess, from the stresses and strains of kind of day-to-day life. So yeah, like I say, usually see me at a Spurs game, and then run my own football coaching business in Milton Keynes area, Dele Alli country, looking to develop and help young boys and girls with their footballing skills and talent. So it's Kickoff Football Academy or @KoForMK across your socials as well.
Oh, I love it, man. I do. That's my favourite thing every week. I'd love it. I'm going to get like a little checklist. Every time you say it, I'm going to tick it off as we go. But no, like I say, Wes, it's excellent to have you on again. My organisation skills are rubbish. I'm always late, but you're always on time and with me. So thank you very much. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in as well tonight or rewatching, etc. Hollie Hotspurs Live will actually be back Monday, because we can finally do a show. There's no game on the Monday night, so we will be doing Hollie Hotspurs Live. So keep an eyes out for who's star appearing for that one. Hopefully we can talk about 3 points, because that would be lovely. And until next time.
I heard my dad's getting the call up for Monday.
Oh, hey, there we go. Yeah, I'll rope him in, man. Like I said, we can get him on a Wednesday as well. I love your dad. He cracks me up. But yes, we will be back Monday, and again next Wednesday as well. Well, hopefully I'll be on time next Wednesday, so I've got to be on time at some point. But until next time, come on, you Spurs.